Hiya, it's Owlett here, and I'm going to do something that I've only done once or twice I think on this channel before, and that's review a movie. I think I reviewed Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows, but as an audio post, like way back. But someone commented a few days ago saying that they were interested in hearing my opinions on Mr. Holmes, and I just so happened to see that yesterday. So I thought, well, hey, let's post our thoughts and feelings on that movie. First things first, I love Sir Ian McKellen. He is an incredible actor, so I thought he was a very worthy actor to have been chosen to play the famous Sherlock Holmes. I liked that they set it in like the 1940s, much later in Sherlock's life. I think quite a lot of the new reinventions of Holmes have him quite young, and so just to see him age was quite interesting, and also quite tragic really to see him lose certain parts of his ability, like his wit and his memory, and it just kind of made him seem a lot more human than he's often portrayed as, because he does become this somewhat greater than everybody else idolized figure who can deduce anything based on what they're wearing, and I like that he can still do that trick. And I thought Laura Linney just was incredible. I love Laura Linney. So great casting. I loved that Roger Allam got to turn up in that, because I'm a big fan of Captain Precious. So I was like, Roger Allam. And who should turn up as the inspector but none other than the cabbie from BBC Sherlock. What? That was so weird for me. I was like, get him away from Sherlock, I can't believe he's in this. It was very cool though, but also a bit creepy because that guy's just a creep. I mean, the actor's probably a perfectly nice person, but he was very creepy as the cabbie. And he was creepy in Doctor Who as well, in the Fires of Pompeii, so he does it well. Good show. I liked the apiaries and the bees. I'm a big fan of bees and beekeeping, so I thought that was really beautiful, and I enjoyed the contrast between bees and wasps that Holmes made, because I believe there's a book series out as well that writes this the cases of Sherlock Holmes but from Moriarty's point of view. And I know that, I think I remember reading that he keeps wasps instead of bees, so there's that contrast of like the bees, you know, work together and create something amazing, and wasps get together and just cause chaos and pain, and that was quite clever and subtle. I think the movie's pacing was a bit off. It was quite slow and not very much involved in the case that he was trying to remember and work out. So it was, you know, quite a calm film the whole way. There was no real moment of, oh, this is happening, so much as like, oh, okay, that happened. And that's not to say that it was necessarily boring or dull, but just like, it didn't have anything really that you could lose. Like, there was nothing weighing on it. I wasn't even ever convinced that Sherlock would die before he solved the case, and it didn't really ever feel like he was going to die. And that's quite nice. I mean, it's nice to have something that doesn't have constant tension and fear in it, but it was just interesting choice. I think the landscape was beautiful and the cinematography was lovely, panning through all the streets and then the wide sweeping landscapes. And I think they did Japan really well as well, with the very dark blacks from the bombings of Hiroshima. The only thing I did find with that cut, so at certain points, was that it was very sweeping from one thing to the next, and when he had the dream scenes and they had to like jump between what he thinks he's remembering, what he's dreaming, and the case of the lady in grey, it got kind of visually overwhelming at times, because you weren't quite sure what was going on and if it was the past or the present or the future. And I'm not sure if it was like that so that it would mirror Sherlock's own confusion and disorientation going on in his own mind. If it was, it did that very well. But if it wasn't, it was, I've said was and wasn't so many times now, it's gone weird. If it wasn't intentional, then it was a weak point in the film. But overall, I couldn't really like fault it. I don't think it's one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes adaptations. I think I really like The Case of the Silk Stockings with Rupert Everett. If you've not seen that one, you should see that. I think it was a movie made for TV, but it's incredible. But I still think Sir Ian McKellen did an incredible job of playing Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, and I loved the banter with the deerstalkers and the pipe. I found it interesting that you never got to see John. I think that it was a very intentional choice, and then therefore you could kind of create your own John in your mind. You kind of saw the back of his head when he was getting into the cab when he was leaving Baker Street. I think it's interesting that they wrote him as such a rift between the two after he got married, whereas in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's books, they do kind of reunite despite the fact that John gets married. And they're still very much, you know, constantly at each other's side, which was shown when he was distraught that John just let everything go and came back over to help him through it. But yeah, so it was fascinating in the way that John sort of wasn't this incredible presence that he's often portrayed as. Like in Elementary, Joan is this huge character all of her own, and Sherlock very much revolves around her and she around him, and it's very symbiotic. Whereas this felt very much like John was the writer who made a fantastical universe that Sherlock was almost bitter about, in this subtle resentful way of like, I became like nothing like the man I was because of John's writing. And I think at one point he says, after spending all that time with me and all those years of living with me, he didn't even know me at all. And that just seemed like a really intense comment to make about someone who's often written as like the two most yin and yang of characters in, you know, literary history. They're very much two peas in a pod kind of thing. So just lots of different takes on Sherlock Holmes, which I'm all for if they work well for a narrative, and I feel like this really did, and I think I have rambled enough. So brilliant casting, beautiful cinematography, bit of a slow moving story, but otherwise well worth your time. So if you can go see it and you're a huge Sherlock Holmes fan, then you'll probably enjoy this. And that's all for me. Maybe I'll do some more films. If you have any that you want me to review, they don't have to be new ones, like please no, because they're really expensive to see over here. But yeah, I can try. I'm not making any promises, but I might, you know, maybe it's something I've already seen, but I might be able to review it. So there you go. I'm done. Toodles.